that has a time element to it, a proposed public art project that the team and Terrence will go through. Mara and Jen will, after that, lead us through our criteria so that we can develop a write-up like we did before. That would be a recommendation to the council, because this is associated with essentially, I think, a piece that the city council will have to approve. So we wanted to do that first. And the time element of this has to do with money leftovers from the 400th that is coming to a close and needs to be expended. So we kind of backward mapped a little to that time and realized we better do this. So that's going to take up a good chunk of our tonight. And then I hope we'll get a chance to talk about Pierce Island. I did develop a draft RFP, and so we want to go next steps on that. I think we're ready. You saw from Jan, we have a summary of public input we'd like to talk a little bit about. So I want to make sure we get to those things tonight. But let's look at the minutes of the January 31st and take a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Ellen, and a second. A second from Mara. Any questions or changes? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Robin.
Thank
Robin
you.
and Ernie,
And Ernie.
I think, are one council meeting away from being officially approved, or are they officially approved?
They are
officially approved.
Officially approved. Excellent. So we're really happy to have you both, because as you'll shortly see, we have more than enough work for everything.
That's gonna be so easy.
We need those extra hands. Robin, do you want to just introduce yourself if people don't know you? Say a
Sure.
few words.
I'm Robin Laurie Meyerkoff. I work at Portsmouth Historical. I'm the facilities manager, the walking tour manager, and I also do some rentals and events, all in 20 hours. I'm also a co-owner of South Street and Vine, if anybody knows that shop. My husband mostly works there, and my sons. I'm just kind of like there once in a while. And I've been involved with arts in Portsmouth for a long time. I worked at Art Speak for quite a while with Nancy, and everybody knows Robin Albert and a bunch of other folks in town. And I've been on a lot of other committees in the city. And we just sunsetted our whole arts big the
Arts
the
and
cultural
nonprofit.
plan, and I was on one of the subcommittees, so I was ready to dig in for something else. So here I am. Thanks.
Great. Welcome. And Ernie, want to say a few words?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Ernie Greenslade. I'm a longtime resident of Portsmouth, and I retired 2 years ago. I was in public relations and worked for Northern Essex Community College in the Haverhill and Lawrence communities. And after retiring, I got involved with the P&H 400, and I chaired the Legacy Subcommittee. And working with the city, we came up with the idea of creating a sculpture garden in the Bahunko Gateway Park. So along with Nancy London and Judy Miller, who are here, and Barbara Masser, we've been working on that project for, I think, like a year and a half. And I just think public art is really important, and it says a lot about a community and its values. And I really appreciate where I live in Portsmouth. I've been on the board of the Prescott Park Arts Festival and also on the library board some years ago. So I am very excited to be a member of this group.
Great. Welcome aboard to you both. Just a few updates. I have no update on the library's inventory of art. I still don't have a callback, even though I've tried again, but we'll keep persisting. I wonder if there's been any action on the Carl Austin Hyatt gift that I know the council received our letter and sent it to the city manager. Do you know any more about that, Kate?
I don't have a specific update on that piece of art, but I had a conversation with the city manager about the art collection, art in the building, and she's very interested in having recommendations from this committee on placement. So,
Good.
especially if you'll notice the hallways are blank here in City Hall. They took down all the artwork to paint, and now she would really appreciate recommendations on placement, including that piece, and
Okay.
specifically mention that piece to her.
Does anybody know which piece of his it is? Because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
familiar with him.
Well, I will send you a phone. We have it
Okay.
in PowerPoint.
Oh, great.
Yes.
He's
It's a Salt
wonderful.
Piles
He's
piece,
wonderful.
yes. And it's one of the large.
Yeah, a lot of his
pieces.
stuff is large format.
Did anybody go to the gathering of the cultural plan and the other folks?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Okay. Any?
Lovely. Yeah, it was great. I think it was pretty well attended.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't there. You were there. You were there. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, it was pretty well attended. Russ and Barbara Messer kind of were the master and mistress of ceremonies. They gave out city pins. It was very
Oh,
nice. It was very
nice.
nice. And it was just it was a nice like button it all up and move to the next phase. So it was I think it was really good that they did it.
Kate, you spoke at that, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I
And
thought that there were a lot of, since I was really not on the inside, someone who came to it kind of from this perspective rather than that perspective, it was really kind of interesting thing to participate in, to kind of see what the deeper history was. And I thought everybody was very expansive and conversational. I mean, sometimes events like that, but no.
The good news is that their work is really truly complete at this stage because thanks to a lot of work Sean has done in the last few months. The final cultural plan is being presented to the council on Monday.
Oh, excellent.
For
Wow,
review and
great.
adoption. So that is really the final culmination of their work.
Excellent. So maybe at the next meeting, we can take a chance to just look at it and see what implications it has for our work. I think that would be good to be able to do that. So without further ado, Ernie, I think you're going to introduce this proposed public art work.
Yes, and you did a really good job of introducing it. So shared some things I was going to say. You mentioned that we had some funding left over, and first of all, I want to apologize. I'm in Florida, and the condo we're staying at, they're having karaoke, their annual karaoke night tonight. So if you hear something in the background, that's what it is. But anyhow, we had a $10,000 ARPA grant to benefit a Rockingham County artist. And then we also had another $15,000 donation that was coming in 2024. So we decided to pursue a second project, and Terrence Parker just came to mind because he's just so talented and has done so many wonderful things in the area. And also he had applied for the original RFP, and he was the only rock artist that applied for that. And so we've been meeting with Terrence, and we're just really excited by the concept that he shared. I've run it by Peter Rice, and he's talked to the city manager about it, and he's enthusiastic. He had a couple of small questions, but we've been keeping them in the loop. But I'm thrilled with what Terrence came up with, and Valerie Rochon, who is the executive director of PNH 400, also has seen it and loved it. We shared it with Chris, and Nancy and Judy have seen it. So we'll be really interested in your feedback.
So Terrence will.
And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
We'll turn it over to Terrence. He's given us a PowerPoint that Sean has up. And
Pass these to you, right?
yeah, Terrence, wherever you want to,
Well, I'm gonna be
but be at a microphone. Yeah.
oh,
You-
sitting at a mic.
Yeah, so we can record. Thank you.
No, yeah, you don't need to read these now, but that's just, oh, it's just for
Reading.
I don't like, I'm not really gonna read too many of them. Want me to sit?
Here.
You can hold that.
Other Slides for you as you. I need to sit, okay.
Well, you need to,
I need to be near
you
Mike.
need to at
Yes.
least talk into a mic. Yeah.
Hold it.
Hi, Nancy. So yeah, so hi, everybody. I'm Terrence Parker. Ernie in the 400 group asked me to come up with some ideas, primarily with two themes in mind. One is the obvious one is like change the character of the pavilion, and the second obviously was the maritime theme. So having thought about that, the thing that popped into my mind was it had to be about fish. And the fish that defines the seacoast and really all of New England. And as Jeff Bolster, the new UNH historian, has written about in his book called The Mortal Sea, it had to be about cod. So I'm jumping ahead, of course. There's the building. Is that the first slide? Yes. Oh, there's the second slide. Where's the one with the view of this?
So go back one.
Actually,
Oh, sorry,
that's
there
the
you go.
first slide
There
right
you
here.
go.
So there's our pavilion. And it's approximately 13 feet on the left and 19 feet high on the right. It's 24 feet long. It's not square at all. So what I thought was that we had to, first of all, change the character of the pavilion, which to my mind is changing the light, because it's a black hole at night.
Mm.
It doesn't do anything for the eye at night. And so it's like, okay, let's turn that into the maritime theme. And then my knowledge of fish based on the books that I'll show you in a minute from Jeff and Mark Kurlansky, who wrote a book about cod, kind of fueled my investigative research toward the artistic bent. So we'll just flip through this. So there's the underpinning structure, and you can see that there's galvanized beams, there's the white understory of the roof, and then there's the wooden structure that the wood structure is the part we're going to hang everything on. But the lights there, if we go to the next slide, you can see there's like, I think there's 13, I forgot, 13 or 19 lights there. They're really like brass fixtures that are low voltage landscape lighting. So there's a lot of lights without producing a lot of output. So my proposal first tackles the structure. The view up there really, I think, has to be painted black so you don't see all of that grid of different materials. So I think to create a scene where you're seeing sculpture, that ought to be black. And that's the part that Ernie and the gang have presented to Peter Rice about the DPW painting, because with the budget that we have, it'd be great if the city took over the painting of that black of that. And so I have a couple of actually professional quotes between $5,000 and $6,300 to paint that, which includes sanding, because all those surfaces have to be sanded to have the paint adhere to that. So next, Sean.
May I ask you a question?
Yes,
Excuse
please.
me for interjecting, but it was about that particular slide.
You want to go back? Yeah.
So looking at it, knowing you're an artist, I'm an artist, I'm wondering if the way the wood is vertical and horizontal, is that to mimic the wood of the bottom of a ship?
On
Or,
the construction of that,
yeah, the wood.
I doubt that, but I
Okay.
don't know. Having not been involved in that design at all, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay, I thought that was part of your design.
No,
that
no,
was-
not at all. No.
You-
That's what's
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
This is what's there.
Oh,
I
that's
want to hide all that. I don't want people to actually see how
Okay,
it's built.
thank you for explaining.
So that, hopefully that all turns black, and then we reuse all the conduits that are there for the low voltage lighting for the new lighting.
Thank you.
So there are the books. There's the Kurlansky book, and there's the Jeff Bolster book. And Jeff's book is really fantastic because it documents efforts to stop overfishing in the 1600s. I mean, sorry, yeah, yes, 1600s. And he also documents absolutely anything that's happened in the ocean, which is really phenomenal because it really ought to influence policymakers going forward. He's won numerous historic prizes for this book. It was written in 2013, I believe. He has half a dozen awards for that book. It's really a great read, and the epilogue is really good. So basically, he tells a story about how the Spanish were actually in the Gulf of Maine pulling cod up by the, if you can imagine, throwing a weighted basket down and pulling up a basket of fish, and some of them were 200 pounds.
Wow.
So some of the facts on that is like the peak of cod was around 300 million pounds in 1888. And in 2020, it was 1 million. So it went from 300 million to 1 million from 1888 to now. And it was probably higher. It's just like technology. But he also documents the crazy technology that went on in the fishing industry, efforts to legislate against overfishing and the resistance to that. And it's like this societal kind of failure to cooperate to prevent overfishing. So really, then the historian, next please. Yeah, there's a cod. There's a dead cod. Oh boy. Oddly enough, I'm proposing to hang fish like that, but in the school. I mean, that isn't why that's there though, but next. Oh, there's the narrative. Next. Okay, so there's the proposal, and I have another view of that. But Dennis Robinson actually documented the fact that in the colonial times, the New Hampshire flag had a fish that looked much like a cod. It had arrows and it had trees. So all of the kind of symbols of our colonies at the time. So in Jeff Bolster's book, he talks about how the economy of all of New England was hoisted forward by the fishing industry, because that created the shipbuilding industry, it created the economies that people made huge fortunes on, and just created our seacoast. And John Smith, the explorer from the 1614s, actually had called the Isle of Shoals Smith Shoals, but someone else changed it. Shocker, right? But he promoted cod fishing to all of Europe, because at that time, all of Europe had depleted all their oceans, and the really adventurous seafarers from England and Spain were coming to Newfoundland and the Gulf of Maine and Georges Bank to take the western, which is the Western Atlantic cod. But John Smith encouraged everybody to come over and do that. But the thing I learned in this was the word shoal actually means school of fish.
Yeah.
It's the Isle of Shoals. I always thought it was rock outcrops, but it's shoal is the term for school of fish. So the other thing that happened at the Isle of Shoals was, because it's such a rich fishing area that we live in now, is that people were making the racks to dry cod. So the entrepreneurs in the Portsmouth area, were the Pepperells and the Cuts, they had operations out there to dry the cod that was caught, because they used to, cod has very low fat, so it's really good to salt. It lasts forever if you salt it. So they dry it and salt it. And the people in New England made their money shipping fish to the Caribbean slave plantations, not in exchange of humans, for in exchange of molasses. And then molasses came up to Boston, and then the whole rum industry took off. So people found a lot of ways to make money from that triangular, trade between Africa, New England, and the Caribbean slave plantations. So that's an unfortunate part of our story, but that's part of the cod story. You can't avoid it. So there's another view. So what I did was, to do this, I did this little clay model. So we can go back, Sean, but go forward a little bit.
Go forward.
There's the dimensions. There's me doing one of my little sketches just to see how things work. So so this is that fish, right? This is kind of like a cod, and I had to do this to enable to draw it. And I really wanted to, try to figure out what were the distinctive aspects of cod is the big mouth, because it was a bottom feeder. This little, what I call a beard, was used to drag that on the bottom, so it used to figure out where the bottom was. But they also has this kind of a swoosh. It's a white swoosh. There's another variety of cod that has a black swoosh, but it's pretty distinctive. And I was just, that there's fish hanging up in the hearth. I don't know if anybody knows
Nice,
that.
yeah.
Yes, Tom Berger.
They're beautiful fish.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom Berger, the
Yeah.
painter, beautiful fish. I think they're striped bass. So if you look at that, it's not a cod. They're up way up, and you can't touch them, and you don't even see them at first because there's so much. It's in the I don't know. Does everybody know that?
Yeah.
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 Right before you.
In the
Yeah,
every-
on the
Yeah.
Penn Hollow, Daniel Street side. Beautiful fish. The reason I did this because I had to make a trip. I wanted to make a trip because I investigated a lot of different ways to make this, metal, resin, colored resin, cast bronze. And for the budget, it was all too expensive. So then my cast bronze people found a sculptor down in Providence that's going to carve these out of wood. So I had to make sure. So I sent him a picture of this, and I went down to visit him, and he had, click, Sean, next one. And he had made this 3D printed from his own studies, and it looked exactly like this.
What is the material?
That's just plastic. It's a kind of he said it was a plant-based plastic.
Wow.
But it's it's this big.
Oh, okay.
You can't do that affordably, because I had talked to somebody about doing that affordably. And it's like, all right, plastic, but then they would all look the same.
Yeah.
So, so let's go back to Sean, go back 3 or 4 to the colored ones. The one in the front with when you're looking at the bottom. I'm jumping around here. Yeah, another one. Yeah, that one. So the idea here is if that's all painted black, these things hang, and they'll probably hang on aircraft cable, and some fastener of aircraft cable, and it'll probably likely hang on some of the wood structure that you see there, a loop around there. They're going to be there's going to be several sizes of fish, 4-footers like the old days, 1500s, 1600s, and 3 and then 2-footers, and they're gonna, from the low end, the big ones are gonna be looking like they're chasing the little ones. So they're gonna, and that'll suggest time as well. So the big ones will go smaller and then smaller. So the little ones will be hanging forward likely. And they're gonna hang with 2 wires so they don't swivel. I don't want them to swivel because then they'll hit each other and they won't be schoolish, looking like a school. And they're likely going to be laminated pine, and then they're going to be used. So I don't know if you know Nate Greenlee, the boat maker
Yes.
over at the button,
Yes.
near the button factory. He's my advisor on like, how do you seal this? How do you do this? Because, I'm not so it's basically it's epoxy resin and then marine grade paint. And that really seals them, and they'll be laminated. So there won't be the cracking and the checking that you see in a big block of wood. So they'll be laminated and then screwed. So the laminate, glued and then screwed and then epoxied and then painted. And they're mostly out of the weather anyway. There's some diagonal rain or diagonal sun that's going to get in there.
Terrence, how much might one weigh, would you?
So
think?
35, 50 pounds. So so they're pretty lightish, I think, because
All together or?
no, it's separate, each one.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's heavy.
So the cables
Whoa.
hold 390 pounds.
And is there going to be variation in color, or are they all going to be?
No,
kind
so I've been
of-
those I drew blue because I was trying to enhance the blue thing, but I'm thinking now that they would be related to the color of the jigs and lures that they used in their lines. So more like a metallic silver. I don't want them to be flat gray like Battleship gray or like the galvanized steel gray.
So there wouldn't be the actual color of actual cod?
No, they're not. No, if I want them, because then there'll be people who say, oh, look at the school of fish. I don't want people to say, oh, look at the school of fish. I want them to be abstract sculptures that people say, okay, that's a fish, but what's it really mean? So they have to think about it.
Might they look a little like the plastic one we saw? I mean, in terms of tone?
Well, that has a metallic, shiny,
Mhm.
let's, no, I don't, they'll look like that, but they'll be
Flatter.
articulated like that, but
They'll be flatter in there.
well, I mean, I'm open to suggestions on the paint, actually. I was thinking either blue or kind of a silvery white. Because, you know,
You're gonna, so. May I? So in your drawing, you have the roof, what actually I would imagine it looks like when you're looking from the bottom to the surface of water, it's light, it's getting lighter.
Well,
You're
that would-
saying it's gonna be black?
well, this is just this concept.
Right,
sketch.
right, I understand.
So the black would hide the difference between the
Right.
metal and the wood and the galvanized, if
So
it's all black.
Don't you think that would make a big determination on what color
Fish are.
the fish are?
Well, there's gonna be, so Sean, go to the very last slide. The blue, the lights. So,
Oops.
do you know the blue lights on the bridge?
Mhm.
So Steve Barlock, I think, was involved in that, the Visilite people. So Steve has been my, oh, no, the very last, there should be a image of the light fixture that I'm proposing.
It's a.
There it
yeah,
is.
There it is.
So it's kind of a rectangular light fixture and it has it's blue and you can do a cone of light either 3 degrees or 60 degrees, so it's probably more narrow. But it'll be, the whole thing will be washed in blue, and because the sidewalk is bright, that'll be blue. There's no light that's gonna overpower the sun. So it's impossible to get blue on any piece of pavement that's hit by the sun. But the fact that it's in shadow on the dull days, if it's lit, it'd be really blue at night. And if you look up, if you walk under it during the day, you'll see blue too. So Nancy, you were suggesting that maybe we should paint it dark blue?
No, I was suggesting that the color, the dark color of the roof would, I think, determine your decision of what color you're gonna.
Yeah, fish.
Yeah, so that's why I'm leaning toward a brighter fish that would
Yeah, I
capture.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I was suggesting silvery whitish.
Yeah.
So it becomes this universal fish. Because we're really telling the story of all of the oceans, not just cod, because it isn't just cod, it's the Manhattan and the mackerel and the herring and the shad and the alewives and I mean, Jeff's book said there was probably tens of thousands of whales in the Gulf of Maine, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
And then there's the expression, oh, cod were so thick you can walk across
Right.
Cape Cod on that, and that's why Cape Cod's called Cape Cod. That was an English explorer whose name escapes me at the moment.
Where would these
Wait.
lights be located? They would be up in the ceiling part?
Yes. They would be up, mounted in the ceiling part. And as you know, the more direct you can, if you have too many lights, one light will erase the shadow that another light creates. So we're gonna try to, that's the lighting is really something that has to be done in the field after it's hung.
Okay.
To figure that out.
To Nancy's
So,
point,
yeah, sorry.
to Nancy's point, and I guess you were asking a question, Nancy, that about the black affecting the color of the fish, but it made me think, if someone's down below and they're looking up at fish, would it be aesthetically pleasing to have the roof painted the color of the ocean?
That's something I will consider, like a marine blue,
Mhm,
something really dark blue. I think that's a good suggestion.
mhm.
I always think black is the thing that, no, there are no shadows against, so it
Mhm.
makes everything kind of, takes out the subtleties of shadow and stuff, but I would consider, a marine, a dark blue as well. Cause I think I want people to walk into there like they're almost walking into an aquarium where it's bluish. And, in the evening, or the low light, there'll be shadows actually on the pavement of the fish, which to me suggests death. But to Nancy's point, I think the brighter the fish is, the more it'll read from a distance and it'll reflect the blue light. So
Mhm.
That's where I'm really leaning.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
But so speaking of shadows, and one question I have is, in both of your drawings, there's fishy forms swimming across the floor, but those are the shadows. You're not thinking about doing any, or are you thinking of doing any articulation of fishness on the floor?
Not at the moment, no, it'd be
So it'd be only the shadows that are
strictly
available.
light-based shadows, correct?
So my question is, when you look up, are you gonna be, how's bright's the light that, I mean, if you look up, are you gonna get the light in your eyes? The blue
Well,
lights, or how does that work?
that's a great question. I think because it's blue light and it won't be that kind of blinding light.
Okay,
It's mostly a blue wash that goes down. And again, the light, it has to be kind of field adjusted. And so I have 4 of those light fixtures in the budget right now, and the budget is approximately right on cue with, what the 400 group has. So everything's looking like it works.
I'm thinking about the floor again.
No,
I mean, because I think it's interesting that we're talking about how it looks when you look up. But I mean, one of the things that strikes me about the design as presented with the fish swimming on the floor is that that's really kind of enchanting. And it, you think about being subsumed in that space, when you're obviously, if you're looking up and, you're trying to maximize the impact of looking at the fish against whatever the surface that their upper surface is. I mean, I guess I'd be curious to wonder if there was some way to maximize it on the bottom as well, that you really have a kind of a situation where the reflectiveness is on the bottom as well, so that when you're walking in it, you're looking up at the fish, but you're kind of like walking through the fishy shadows.
that is exactly the intent. So the intent is to do the lighting to create that. Whether the question I have for myself is whether the budget supports the amount of light to create that shadow or not.
Yeah. But what about the stuff on the floor, whatever the material on the floor is?
It's white concrete, so it should take the color of whatever falls on it.
It's quite bright.
It's quite bright, but again, it's a pavilion that the low side of that is the south side. So there'll be plenty of shadow because it is a shelter.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of, especially in the summer when the sun gets up to 73 degrees. In the winter, it's down really low, so it drives the sunlight, the low sunlight in on the ground plane. But the higher that angle of sun goes, the more direct shadow you have underneath the pavilion. So I think that's the unknown for me, and I will endeavor wholeheartedly to create those shadows because that's important to me.
I wonder if there's an additive to paint or something that picks up like.
I'm not going to rule that out. So it'd be.
Yeah.
And there is also, and I have talked to my lighting consultant, Steve, there's, those little, there's a gobos.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So there's those little lights that have,
Yes.
that cast an
A sheet.
image.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
theater.
Oh, yeah.
Theater lights, so they
Yeah.
call, there, it's a gobo, I think. You
Yep.
can create I'm sure you can, a little fish design, you can cast.
Yeah.
So that's another option is to, but that,
To enhance it that way.
to enhance it
Yeah.
that way, right? So,
If that maybe that's something that could be added if it can't be in this budget, maybe it's something like for the future, if somebody could write a grant or something.
correct, Robin. I'm hoping that we can accomplish with the lights we have. But there are accessories that we can add, more lights, gobos, paint on the sidewalk. Shadows I think are hugely important. I used to play shadow games as a kid with my brother. Running along shadows and stuff, and if you got hit by the sun, you were dead. So shadows have always resonated with me for a long time. So,
Parents,
Kate
I
has a
think
question.
Yeah, my question is more technical, structural. Do we know that the wooden supports in that pavilion will support the weight of
Yeah,
several of these?
I don't know that exactly, but if you look at that structure, there's a lot of galvanized beams.
Mhm.
Galvanized, I mean, the wood posts are clasped in galvanized metal, and then there's a lot, those cross beams that are galvanized metal.
Okay.
There's a lot of structure there. So 20 times, what's 20 times, 1,000 pounds?
And it's spread out.
It's really.
And I
spread-
think that, I think what's important, you know, like Peter Rice will be going over this really carefully. You know, we've already shared the initial concept and we're hoping to meet with him. Because I'm sure he's gonna have a lot of those kinds of questions.
Right, and that's why I'm asking, because I just want to make sure that we head that off, and you know, if the recommendation comes from this committee to move forward, that that we kind of know what questions are coming from Peter Rice.
It's a great question. And I don't mean to be dismissive, but I think we're well under what probably is the snow load of that structure, because just looking at all the metals, the metal that's supporting the wooden structure that's there, but you know, perhaps that whoever designed that would know that question. I don't know who the original designer of that
It's
pavilion
kind of a
was.
mystery to us. I think the person who would know is Nancy Carmer. And maybe we can find out from Nancy.
So I had 3 questions, and actually, Kate, to follow up on your question, one of those I was thinking, okay, the design is beautiful. I love the shadows. I love the idea of walking through it. So I love the artwork. But my technical questions, I think you've already really answered 2 of them, but one was to follow up on Kate. How secure is it? Because God forbid one fall on someone's head. You said they weigh, you know, what, 50 pounds or 30
35 to
pounds?
50
Like,
pounds probably.
you know, but it sounds, you know, like the cable, you've got them well cabled. Then I thought about wind, like, I don't know how long the cables are, how far they'll descend down, like they probably won't all be at the same length. They'll probably be at various lengths, I would imagine, like a school of fish. They're not all lined up like the army.
Correct.
So I wondered about wind and entangling them, but I presume you've figured out how far they can swing and,
Well, that'll be an
Fasten
issue with,
together.
you know, the length of
right.
cord.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't.
There would be space so as not to have that problem.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure that's part of what you're figuring out as an artist. And then my third question, you pretty well addressed. I know the boat builder was, if they're made of wood, they'll be exposed, of course, to weather, both sun, water, salt from the salt water would be on them, but they'll be well sealed so that even though they're wood, they won't deteriorate over in our lifetime anyway.
Well, that's the hope, especially because they're undercover, they'll be having lot less exposure to inclement weather. But nevertheless, I would go to the maximum effort to seal them as a boat builder would seal a boat.
Excellent.
Yeah, Ellen.
So I want to talk for a minute about the shadows, because in your drawings, you make the shadows look like they're right underneath the fish. But you're talking about painting the ceiling black so that the sun doesn't come through. Is that right?
The
And
sun
so
doesn't come
I'm-
through now.
Right. So
The shadows are from the
Light.
the blue lights.
Oh, the blue lights. Okay.
Yeah, the
So
ones-
I
so we
knew I
have-
was
we have
missing
con-
something. That's
have-
why I'm
Yeah,
going back and asking
We
this
have
question.
control of where those lights are placed relative to the fish.
Okay.
So that's a real
Thank
kind
you.
of
I
field.
didn't see where the blue lights were, so thank you.
Yeah, I didn't draw them in.
Nancy.
Do you have an idea, and I'm sure you do, how much space there is between a person and the fish? Is it something that,
Well, the lowest one, if Sean, if you go toward the beginning, I don't know. There's hold on. There is a sketch that has dimensions.
oh, yeah, yeah, I
dimensions.
think it's
Actually, it's further on.
further on, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sean.
Beyond?
Yes.
The beginning, Sean, the other beginning.
Toward the end, Sean, like Chris says.
Oh,
Not
okay.
just- I'm not that I wanna like put ideas in anybody's head, but I'm thinking of, you
That's
know, some
important.
teenagers getting
So
on each
10
other's shoulders
10
and
foot height.
hanging on it,
10 and a
yeah.
half feet.
You know, that's the height of a basketball rim.
Okay, so somebody could get up there if they wanted to
Yeah.
swing on it,
Sure.
Yeah, there's no, I don't think there's any art that
right?
it's
But it's
outdoors.
gonna
that-
hold them.
Well, that's the whole thing. Well, I mean, I could bring them higher so they're really out of reach. I mean,
Then you lose that.
Yeah,
Right,
bad
right.
idea. You lose
Yeah.
some of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the same is true of the Endeavor sales. I mean, we
That's right.
can't really prevent
Right.
some vandal want to go there or some
That's right.
child wanted to climb it or
Right.
somebody wanted to spray paint it. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we don't
But
have
I-
guards there.
But I guess I've had this, I had a similar worry too. It was just like lurking in the back of my mind because, you know, I think that they're hanging, hanging is a challenge. They're wood. Oh, boy.
well, the cables.
People don't know they're wood though.
Yeah. they
No,
won't know
they will
that
be,
way.
They won't, it wouldn't be obvious that they're wood
yeah,
because
but
they're
the
gonna be.
cables are, you know, 386-pound test.
Yeah. So if someone
That's-
even hung on to one,
You have to be
Yeah.
325 pounds and able to jump 11 feet to get your hands.
Somebody that big isn't
Right,
gonna
the
jump.
giant- Watch out.
Can I ask a question about the pavilion itself? I know, and this isn't for you necessarily, Terrence, but who uses the pavilion? Do we have any potential uses for it? Is there gonna be music there or
I-
poetry readings
I have
or?
heard people say that the original idea was that not only would there be interpretive panels, and I believe there will be more interpretive panels, but that it could be a place for gathering or music. I think it's been so unfriendly looking that nobody has taken anybody up on that. But when the Endeavor sculpture was inaugurated, there was a sea shanty, people singing and whatever. So you could see a talk about codfish. You could see something like that happening once that park becomes a little more activated.
And can I just, that was the vision when, we did this P&H 400 project. And I'm not sure if everybody's aware, like Sija Chen's piece, Endeavor, is going to be very educational. Alan Feinberg wrote a description for each of the 13 maritime themes that are in the piece with the cutouts. And there's going to be a permanent signage there that will explain why each of those themes was selected. So we kind of envisioned it as being educational and cultural. If music, it would be a perfect spot for programs on maritime, subjects or, performances.
Maybe we should loop in the schools on something like this.
Well, I think for the rest of the park, because the rest of the park has a design history going forward. So, but I think that your mentioning of educational suggests that along the line there could, as you started telling about codfish in our local history, the potential to have some more interpretive information there, or even a soundscape where you could listen to something would be a great future thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So are there any other questions before we kind of look at our criteria and describe?
The soundscape sounds so beautiful, but I've heard recordings of whales singing, but I have no idea if God's making it.
Maybe it'll just be the ocean wave.
Probably is.
I was thinking of Jeff Polster talking about it. I wasn't.
I like the idea of the shanty music. maybe.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of seafaring song playing.
Well,
makes
Jeff
you wanna get it.
Bolster also has a book about black sailors, and he talks
Right.
about shanty songs quite often in that book. So shanties are,
Appropriate, yeah.
Neat.
yeah, they're very, very appropriate. Right?
Mhm.
So Mara and Jen, do you want to lead a discussion where we can kind of
Yeah, do we
fit
have
this
to,
to our criteria so that we were
Yes,
right up with
let's
the
look at our-
recommendation?
we have a PowerPoint of ours.
yeah,
I think you
Sean
do.
has it.
Okay.
Sean has it.
I thought.
We did.
You did.
Mara, do you want me to start with the site?
Sure.
You think you said?
Unless you have them with you, but I don't,
I
I have
actually
mine.
didn't bring mine, I'm sorry.
but
'Cause I thought we'd have it on PowerPoint.
I think you do.
This.
I don't have my computer with you to send it to you.
Agenda. Did I put it in the, invitation?
You don't have enough emails, Sean.
I don't have an email.
Very,
It wasn't in there.
it was not in the
No, it
invitation.
wasn't in the invite.
No, so I'll save you that time.
Leave it in my inbox.
Well, you could.
I can kind of walk us through it.
Yeah, here you go.
Or we could
PowerPoint.
just walk us through it. The first one's really all about this. If you have, I might have,
Look
do
at
I have
this.
another copy somewhere? No, I have one.
Is this it?
It's a,
No. It's this one.
I have it on my email. Do you want me to send it to you, Sean?
Yeah,
I'll send it back.
Then I
to
will
you.
have it in my inbox and I can open it.
Yeah, I've got
Great.
it on my, all right, so let's see if this works.
We can start at least.
yeah.
We can start because it talked, we really have to talk about the site first. And then the one thing is the availability of an appropriate site. We have the site there. That's
Mhm.
kind of, I don't think we'll have any disagreement on the site. That's the accessibility, and it's talking about just the maximum extent feasible and accessible for the surrounding community members and those with special needs.
Mhm.
I think we kind of have that one in place.
There's no parking nearby, though, is that correct?
There's none at not, well, it's across the street there is, isn't there?
At the Albacore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Across the street. Safety and liability, I think we've talked to that and raised those questions about the public safety and liability issues and way to describe that. And then it's also consultation with Public Works, which of course you're talking with Peter Rice on that one. So that's I think we've addressed that as far as bringing that up. The traffic patterns, there's really no traffic pattern that we have to worry about with this one as far as I'm concerned.
So
And again-
it will draw people. to
I
the-
think so. I think the traffic pattern will be there. But then we talk about the current conditions and is there existing artwork or any visual impediments for the proposed site? I don't think so.
People have raised whether those interpretive panels detract from, will detract from it. And I don't know, they're kind of on the outside right now. And I don't know whether, I don't know if they have to be there or if they could be put someplace else. But I don't know if that detracts from the effect of the School of Fish.
Oh, that panel that we saw on the
Panel
pavilion?
that's on the
Okay.
side, it's about 2 by 3.
There's an image, the
Yeah, I
first
remember.
image of-
slide one
yeah.
has,
Yes.
I mean, consideration that I think that could be on a little podium piece as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah.
That, the Public Art Review Committee could always suggest down the
Moving
road
that.
that those are moved and are mounted the same way we do our historical.
Yeah,
Hey, there it is.
I agree. I
Boy,
thought the sign was
that's
like
great.
detracting.
Yeah, it kind of detracts from the power of the shadows, I think.
Absolutely.
I agree with that, but I wasn't proposing to move it
Yeah.
at the moment.
But that's something Public Works can address because they do that
Yeah.
type.
Right.
So Sean, you want to go to the first, yeah,
Yep,
that one.
Perfect. And then the last one is project-specific requirements. And I think we've pretty much talked about that. I don't think there are any more questions about the specific requirements for the area, correct? Because there's, again, lots of different requirements as far as the weight, as far as, you know, where you're putting them, the lighting, things like that. There's a very project specific. And I think you've addressed most of the questions that we had.
Yes, I think so, you know, and not that this is necessarily something that can be done, but most people will see it driving by. Most
Probably,
people
yeah.
will be driving rather than walking, and I wonder if there are any thoughts related to that or any
Well, that's why the fish should be a bright color.
bright color.
So they catch the light. I think they'll be readily seen from the Sarah Mildred Long Bridge. If you do look down, you do look down right at that. Really.
Yeah,
And then you have a traffic light right there, so you'll be. looking
True.
across.
yeah, okay,
But yeah, anytime you can, if in the future, if you remove the historic reference sign there, that would be a plus, I think.
yeah.
I think so.
So yeah, those are all things, as we go through the criteria, we would want to document so that gives it its best light.
From the bridge, wouldn't you be looking down on the rooftop, or would you be able to?
No,
access
you
it
just,
if
you have
It's level?
I didn't take a picture of it, but
That's okay.
you have a nice angle in on that,
Nice.
especially at night. It will be, I'll always look at it. But no, there's an odd,
Wow.
you drive it along and it's like, there it is.
Yeah.
It's a nice little angle, like a
Nice.
bird's eye oblique
Yeah, nice.
down on the pavilion, and you see down into it. So you'll see the east and north facing fish.
Very nice.
And I mean, and we
Nancy,
didn't
yes.
look at the, oh,
Well, I was just gonna say, that hopefully as time goes by, there'll be additional sculptures in the park and it'll generate enough interest, so people won't just drive by, they'll actually
Oh,
stop
True,
and walk through the park.
Correct.
That's the whole.
yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for saying that, Nancy.
Mara,
It's
you-
Oh,
just
we
year
did-
one.
the fact that, we talked about the cultural context, but, that's really clear with
Yeah.
this, that it fulfills the cultural context that's related to the site,
yes.
fish, cod.
Anything else on the site that we need to mention?
I wondered if, when we were talking about parking at the Albacore, I should know because I drive by there all the time, but is there a
There is.
crosswalk light?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
A
so.
button.
I thought so, but I just
button.
wondered.
But that is so dangerous.
Maybe in the future or at some point, there could be a sign at the Albacore parking that these sculptures are there, that some information about what's across the street.
Oh, that, I
Because
think.
so many people park at the Albacore is probably one of the most visited sites in the city, to
It
be
is.
honest with
Really?
you.
Yeah. it is
Yes.
The most. visited.
Thousands and thousands of
The most.
people, yes.
Oh, so I think any outreach you can make it, that the Albacore for the Bohenko Park would be an excellent idea.
That's a great idea.
Great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Wayfinding.
But I
That
think,
wayfinding, yep.
I think the lights are also going to help, especially at night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That'll be like, oh, there's something there.
Yeah.
Because right now there's
Nothing.
nothing there. There's there, but it's really hard to see at night.
I was gonna mention, Dawn with Port City Bikes. She is going to put the Endeavor on their bike tour. So I love that idea of, thinking about other organizations in the city that we might be able to talk with and, ask them how they can make it a part of what they're doing, like the Albacore.
Well, the Portsmouth Historical Society is the visitor center for the city of Portsmouth. So maybe we could make some sort of rack card or some sort of information, because our front desk people interact with over 35,000 people a year. So
I think.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation, by the way. Is the parking at the Albacore public parking, or do they have any control over that if they have such an influx of attendees, will
My
they?
understanding is that a portion of it is shared parking with the city, but I mean, that's from a long time ago understanding. It's worth us checking that so that people feel okay about parking there.
It's a really big parking lot.
It is. They
Good.
extended it.
Yes.
Mar, I'm gonna do the feasibility one too, because I know the aesthetics are your favorite one to talk
Yeah.
about, so I
It
think I'll
is,
go.
but we can talk about feasibility.
No, I'll talk. I'll-
Okay, you talk.
Then you can, because I know you like the last one too, so I'll talk about this. The budget, again, this really isn't our budget
Right.
because it is a gift almost.
Yes.
So it is a gift to us. I did have a question though, that if, for example, like we do have additional lights are needed, you know, additional fish lights to go swimming or something like that. We do have money in the budget that would be available to actually
Augment?
enhance this.
We think we will.
We think we will.
I actually haven't, I asked Suzanne to get us the information about how much is in the trust. I don't, have you heard yet?
I was able to confirm the 150 from Pierce Island, the 150 from the garage. The others that were referenced at the last meeting, I don't believe that what I'm understanding is they're not buildings or they weren't. There's not, those are the monies, the 150 and the 150 are what's available.
And then
City council
CIP
allotment?
the CIP hasn't, that will be passed with this current budget. So it's in the CIP budget, but it hasn't passed yet. So,
Right.
you know, that would be a source in the future.
Next one is project completion. The nice part about this is there's an end date for this because, well, we just have to get started on this one. I'm assuming there isn't an end date for when we have to spend it, is there?
It's 2024.
I don't think we have to spend it. We have to obligate it, I think is probably.
I mean, they would like everything to be done by, I believe it's June 30th.
Of this year?
Oh.
Yikes. Is that,
That's
is
Well,
that,
That's the PNH 400 budget. The money is in with PNH 400. And that budget is going to be closed up June 30th. But we would just have to figure out, you know, how we're going to transfer the money or, you know, what we're going to do. Because I think it would be really challenging to try to get this completed by the end of June.
You have the Public Art
That's
Trust
true.
Fund.
Yes.
You have a place
A place.
where it
Yes.
belongs, where you'll have access.
Exactly. It comes in as a donation and is designated donation for the project, then it stays designated.
And I also was going to say that, you know, Terrence's original budget was more than we had available. And he's been really good about, you know, letting things go and bringing, you know, bringing that budget down. So, you know, I don't know if at some point, maybe we do, you know, like a wish list of what, you know, if we had additional funds, this is what we could do.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've generated some of that as we've gone tonight. So good.
and the next one is really about a schedule, and we haven't really heard that much about what's the planned schedule for this. So I think that was something I'd love to know a little bit more about. We know when we have to have the money allocated, but we don't know when the completion is, when the fabrication is, how long it's
Long
going
as
to
we
take, all that kind of
Well,
stuff. So-
Terrence, do you require a deposit? Do you want some money, seed money to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause you have to buy materials.
Right.
Right.
So that's a big hunk of it. I've been trying to think that it would be done before school started, early August, before school started, but you know, I wasn't aware that there was going to be a city council meeting. That's fine. But that probably delays. I mean, if you said, you know, March 1, here's some money, go, it would probably be, you know, first week in August.
Yeah. So that helps us to know just what that frame looks like.
Right.
you know?
But I mean, probably It's September 1.
Yeah, it's probably.
So Terrence, each fish is going to be carved,
Hand
hand carved
carved, so
and
the-
individual.
Yeah, so the beauty of that is, if you look at the fish again, you can have, tails that are doing
Mhm.
different things.
Yeah, I love it.
Maybe the mouth does something different.
Yeah.
So they'll all be a little different as opposed to, a bronze casting or a,
Yeah.
3D printed or a computer cut metal thing. I forgot the.
I
name of
mean,
that.
you could do a fundraiser and name a fish after someone. Fund for bells and whistles. Third fish from the left.
So that's all true.
One fish eating a fish. I mean,
Exactly, get the personality in
big
there.
fish.
Right.
Right.
You know they'd be fighting over the big fish. More
Yeah, so
expensive.
it's I think the numbers are 5, 9, and 6, or 5, 4-footers, 6 3-footers, and 9 2-footers,
Right.
something like that. Something like
So,
that.
but so you'll write, that will be written out, how
No.
many fish? No,
No, that's just in my head. I mean, bigger ones are moving toward the
bigger
river.
Right,
fish.
gotcha.
So there's less of those.
Sure.
The next question we have is about the technical feasibility. And I think we've talked a lot about that as far as is this doable, is, the weight, all those things. So I think we pretty much answered that unless anyone has any questions or concerns on that.
We'll wait TBD.
Yeah.
We'll check on that, yeah.
And then the ongoing maintenance, and I think you've addressed a lot of the questions that I think we've had about the ongoing maintenance because they're going to be weatherproofed and things like that. But again, I think we still have to have a little bit more. What do we have to do? What does the city have to do for that? What about how long do the light bulbs last? Do we need to make sure that that gets done? Things like that. The paint underneath, when does that have to be repainted? Things like that.
Is there a certain amount that gets set aside? I know previously for any public art projects, a certain amount had to get aside for
Right.
regular maintenance.
Normally we would, I think in this budget, because as Ernie said, it's really trying to use this very tight money. We probably wouldn't for this
Okay,
budget. But again, that's why we're trying to get an annual appropriation.
and it doesn't seem like this needs any sort of annual maintenance anyways.
Right.
Probably every 5 or 10 years or something.
Might need it.
Yeah, but paint is
Cleaning.
always cleaning, yeah.
Well, it's marine varnish, so.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that if it's a gift to the city and the city council accepts the gift, the city council can waive its, funds coming in and accepting the gift. So
It's good.
that's, if it's determined that it's not going to be high maintenance. So, you wouldn't
That's right.
want to do that if you had your
Low
Department of
maintenance
Public
fish.
Works director saying this is going to cost us a
Right,
lot of money to maintain.
exactly.
So
Yep.
I think that that's important.
Cool.
Aesthetics.
Yeah, next. There it is. Okay, so I think we certainly talked somewhat about the aesthetic elements, the shape, line, form. Is it a cohesive whole? What, anyone feel they need to comment on that more than we've said?
I think it's beautiful.
I love the imaginativeness of it, and I think kids will like that too, because the shadow is such a big part of it, which is really important, and there's a lot of interactivity really there and potential for motion, and I can see kids wanting their pictures taken with the fish shadows on them, things like that I think give it a good sense of imagination with relatively simple materials.
I can see people trying to swim through that, having fun with that.
So I mean, really, we're also talking about the imagination as well. And question about the site, any other thoughts than what we've discussed? How about how the fishies relate to the site that they're being placed in? I mean, for me, horrible thing to say, but I've always felt that the let's just say that the pavilion could be improved
Yeah.
in terms of its situation in such a conspicuous and central place. So that's really, it's nice to be using that for something that is imaginative and, you know, speaks to the city and the history of our area, et cetera. So, you know, that's.
Well, when it was first told to me that changing the character of the pavilion was priority, it was like, yes, indeed.
Go. Right, right. I mean, I
Still
think
don't know who designed that pavilion.
this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I think after this, it'll always look different.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
right. So right. I mean, and it's interesting because, you know, in terms of thinking about site and fitting into a site, it's not usually the question of, okay, transforming the site into something that works in a more aesthetic and positive kind of fashion. So that, I mean, I think that's certainly good. Coherence and consistencies, we all see that. I think that no one's objecting, and the materials are, you know, I mean, we wanted to be kind of open as to the use of materials when we were thinking about what to look at. And I think that, you know, my own feeling is that that's true here.
The
But-
naturalness of the wood,
Mhm.
I think that's important. And even the idea of like marine varnish on it, you know, things that are related to
The marine.
Boat building.
the boat
Yeah.
building.
Exactly, yeah, so that, yeah, when I had the chance to eliminate the more expensive ones, I realized that the less expensive one was the most
Right.
appropriate to the area because of the reasons Chris just said.
Yeah.
I had to go to fine boat builders to say, how would you do this? Right, right, so that was like the perfect.
Right.
And then
We
the,
do know that marine varnish doesn't last forever.
No.
That's true, but most boats are subjected to the worst environments.
They sure.
This is undercover.
They're not in the
And
water,
it's
they're
not
not being
in the water.
submerged.
It's a different lifespan,
Yeah.
even though it's the same material.
Good.
It's lasted 20 years on my sink inside.
Oh,
That's a good amount of time.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
All right. you ready?
So,
and then the other innovative material is the light and the blue lighting. So that's an excellent addition to that.
Yeah, I was thinking aquarium when
mm,
Yep.
right.
my mind was
that's a good
spinning about
point.
it.
Right,
Next.
good.
There's more.
Here's some more. Oh, wait, there's more.
There's more.
Oh,
Next.
right.
Good.
Okay, expressiveness, emotions. Well, we know it enhances the viewer's experience of the site. The work expresses purpose without unnecessary explanation. I mean, I think that it will do both. You know, I really like talking about how there will be some interpretive material, but I don't think, you know, walking underneath and within the shadows of fish, you don't need much, you know, it gets you
Yeah.
in the, it just gets you.
May.
Oh,
add a
please.
Comment. I think, yeah, the experience of walking through the shadows itself is beautiful, but I think it would be nice, or maybe that's part of your plan, and I missed it, to have some simple explanation of the history of cod and its importance. I mean, endeavors can have that, so.
Yeah.
will
I
it be-
think that's one of those on your list of the next step kind of.
Okay.
Yeah,
The enhancement.
right.
Well, in the past, at my own expense, on the things that I've done that are public art, I have a little, what I call it's like deciphering the art. You know, it's like, what does that mean? What is this? You know, so, and there's one at the working sculpture with the giant hammers, and the root blade mural has a
Mhm.
deciphering the art
Yeah.
piece as well. So I think it is important to do that, although I remember Chris asking me this when you were city council member, when they presented the hammers. I said, it's not my budget, Chris, but I did it anyway.
A precedent was set.
Yes.
So, okay, and, I think we agreed that it's compatible scale, material, form, content
Yeah.
with surroundings, function. It's definitely defining the space that is at the moment a kind of cipher. Any thoughts about that? And, historical accuracy, I guess we have felt was, important, just like it wouldn't be so great to show, I don't know, the swordfish. I may be wrong about that, but as far as I know.
Yeah, I think the history is a strong piece of this, even if it's implied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's Portsmouth.
Right.
And water. So, I mean, if any other thoughts that people have about these criteria? So, I don't know.
Do we need to make a motion to recommend this for city council?
Or are we, yeah,
for,
where are we
to-
with this?
To
That's a good
approve
point.
the donation, or?
I think we will need to do that with the write-up based on our criteria as we did before.
Okay.
And so what, Nancy, do you want to put that forth?
Can we get a motion to recommend the project to city council for acceptance? Or, wait a minute, that's not what we're motioning. We're motioning for them to accept the donation. What are they
Good
accepting?
question.
Exactly.
I would like a donation from Portsmouth 400 that will become a part of the pavilion structure. Because that's why we're doing it for them, because that's a city structure. It's like, we can't just go and plunk things on people's.
Okay. Who will make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay.
Any other comments people want to make or questions?
No, but I have a question about the motion. So if the motion is to accept the money for the pavilion, that
Recommend that the city.
recommend that the city accept the money.
Accepts the artwork.
Right, that's what I want to clarify. Are we saying accept the money or accept this specific
Accept the
artwork?
artwork, because
Right.
that's our.
Okay, great.
purview.
I just wasn't clear what that meant.
Yeah,
The-
I wasn't either.
The funds will come in separately and be donated. And we have a different process for that at City Hall. It goes into a list of donations that the council accepts.
But is Terrence Parker's design part of this motion?
Yes, it would be.
Yes, it would
Okay.
be the essence of the motion, because in a way, we don't have to worry about this money. We're recommending that the city accept this from Portsmouth 400 for transforming the pavilion.
Thank you so much, Terrence. It looks like you put a lot of thought and time into this already, so thanks.
It's true. I have.
I know you.
Oh, I love it though. I wouldn't want it any other way.
If people are clear with that motion,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So what you'll get is a write-up of this, and as we did before, make suggestions or whatever before we take it to council. So yes, thank you, Terrence, thank you,
Yeah, thanks,
Ernie and Judy and Nancy. I think this will be, it'll be
Thank you.
great to have two pieces there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then it'll start to feel like
Yeah.
it's gonna become apart.
Excuse
Go
me.
ahead, go
When do
ahead.
you think the city council meeting would be?
The next one that would be available is March the 18th.
So that's
the
we'll
next
aim for that.
Yes.
Kicking it down the
2
street.
weeks from
Monday?
Hurry
2
up
weeks
and
from
leave.
Monday, 2 weeks from Monday.
Monday. right?
Yes, a Monday.
Always on Mondays.
Yes, because
Um,
the agenda is closed for next Monday, right? So
Kate, do you think that, I'm sure Terrence is asking, do you think they'll want a short presentation, or what
Uh,
would be appropriate?
Probably the most appropriate thing would be like a packet of information rather than too much of a presentation. I know that that meeting is already going to be a very busy meeting. So it really helps if we have kind of like like a PowerPoint
Maybe we could just
presentation and
take the slides and put them on, print them out as a pack, with the packet. with
Well,
the
I
right-
can reduce them.
Yeah,
to
reduce
their
them.
bare
and do that.
essentials.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Right, that would be the most appropriate thing. And the other thing that would be helpful in advance is to make sure we have some information from Department of Public Works, from Peter Rice,
And
to go
Ernie
with that
is,
packet.
Ernie is on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know she's been getting that.
I'm on it.
I know we're not covering our other things for an agenda, but one timely piece. You have a draft RFP for Pierce Island that, again, because it has to go through various hoops and we want to give the artist the maximum time here to review it. We'll give it to you in hard copy, but also Sean will send it via email. And what we were thinking, if this works for people, is that a small subgroup, if a couple of people want to join me, that we would review and finalize based on comments that people make, the RFP, using the attachment. Jen prepared the summary attachment of public input to give people the full picture, because I think that really captured, for those of us who were at those sessions, I think it really captures that. They don't need the longer detail, but you did a beautiful job of synthesizing what the key points were. So what I would recommend is if there are a couple people, so everybody would review it, send comments to Sean. And if there are a couple people who then want to work with me, we would get the RFP to legal, because they've got to review it first. They may have questions for us. And then it goes to procurement.
Right, and then it follows
For their
the sign
review.
off process, which I can shepherd, but at least once it comes up.
Yeah, so, I mean, you'll see the dates that I plunked in there. I would hope that we could complete that by the end of March, giving a 2-month time for it to be in the field. So does that make sense to people, or do you think, or do you have other suggestions for how we move?
So you want us to specifically reference the summary, the document of the recap?
That would be the attachment for it, for the RFP, exactly. It's referenced in there as an attachment for the artists to review.
Yeah.
So, put yourself in the position of somebody in California or Minnesota or Portsmouth, getting this cold and thinking about what do we need to tell those people in order to, get something imaginative and that would work.
Well, it worked for the Endeavor, so,
It did.
I mean, if people feel that way.
It did. So I agree with that. And this kind of follows a very similar format because it will go through legal. It might get some other kind of language in it, but I want to make sure that we're comfortable first with all the details and things that we want to communicate to the artists.
So Chris, you want us to get on it long before the 27th?
I do. Because I was thinking that if 1 or 2 people that are willing to work with me, we would synthesize that maybe by the middle of the month or and get it to legal as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I can help. Ellen and Mara. Okay.
Especially because I really will be out of the picture for the next meeting.
Okay. I think that's good, but everybody should review it and get Sean any comments that, or things that, I mean, especially things that are left out. That's the most important thing. What's not here that we're just taking for granted because we're so close to it.
I'd love to volunteer, but I'll be gone 2 weeks in March, so
Yeah, I
good, but
think it'll be easy for the 3 of us to do that. Other things I think can wait. I think we can next meeting, finalize any desired changes we want in public art ordinances. I really appreciate us focusing tonight on this project. I think it was fun to do, and also we know it's got a timeliness to it. Anything else people feel we need to do tonight, Barney?
No, just next time, we just need to talk about the donations to add that to the criteria.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is that we
I
need
thought
to,
that looked really good, but yes, we want to, remember Mara and Jen worked on, when we had Carl's piece, our criteria, which worked well tonight, didn't work as well for that donation. So they added some criteria, and we want to all agree to that.
I just have a quick question about the Carl donation. Is he expecting that's going to be on view or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the
That was
expectation.
part
Okay.
of the review, and
Okay.
actually,
A recommendation, didn't this group recommend a location?
we did,
Right.
we did.
So
And actually, Robin, will get you that memo so you can see what we
Okay.
recommend.
I just love Carl's work, so it'd be nice to know that it's on exhibit and not stashed away, in
No.
storage.
Should-
Wants it on
I should say
TV
this, the
everywhere.
city manager loved the idea of it being very visible.
As you come in to City Hall, is
Yeah.
what we recommended, because we think it would be, especially with the new painting job, it'd be stunning.
It's very bare there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
I guess-
looking for more donations or Carl just came forward?
He came forward.
came
Yeah.
And I should also note, I think it's important to understand that the city manager has control over what gets displayed
Okay,
in city buildings. So that's
Yeah.
really her purview. So, but she's asking for recommendations from.
okay.
Okay. And so we did recommend that particular, for that one, but I hear you also
Thanks,
saying
Kate.
a future agenda item should be other artwork that the city has and what might be in City Hall and what might be best displayed.
I just have a little housekeeping, because I think with Ernie and Robin, you don't have the criteria, you don't have all that background information. So how do we get that information to her
Well,
or
a
them?
lot of it's
Sorry.
on the website,
Mhm.
on our website.
Mhm.
And more will be.
Well, fun fact, she actually, Robin wrote the original criteria that we base
Kathy
our
and-
criteria
yeah.
off of, so it will not be new information for her.
So those guidelines are on, and one thing you'll notice in this, I did a lot of linking so that this could be fairly short. So there, we link to the criteria, we link to the committee piece, we link to other pieces in Portsmouth, that sort of thing. And any other links that you think would, for, again, somebody from away, think about that.
Think about a link.
Think about the link, right?
And I had a question. Do you still need work on the document that describes current art in the city?
Oh, you
And could
do.
we
We've
have,
just set
can
that
you send
aside.
out that link out again? Because I'd like to work on that.
Nancy, you have that Google Doc. Would you send that out? You sent out the Google Doc originally.
Current public art?
Yeah, we've started cataloging it and I just wanted to just
Great.
weigh in on that and help
Yeah.
provide
Send
content.
it to Sean.
Yeah, and actually, Robin, you probably would have some really good input into that as well.
We actually have a public art walk map. And I still have access to that map. We did
Mhm.
a big to-do. I don't know if you went to that,
Yeah.
and we walked and it's a little dated, but
It's
it's
yeah.
still
Good.
pretty valid.
And
I can send that.
I hope
Yeah.
we've captured most of those pieces in there, but maybe not.
Yeah. Maybe send that to Sean too.
Yeah.
We
so
can,
that he can send it.
Yeah, I sent it to the committee once, but it probably got buried in all of your other stuff, so.
put it in the appropriate place.
So Mara and Ellen, once people put their feedback into Sean, I'll email you, and we
Yeah.
can find a time to get together and. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ellen,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay.
My stomach rumbling.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
I
Hiram.
Thanks, Sean.
a little late. I want to say.